Welcome back to R&DW Adventures. I'm Darryl, and today I'm here at the Belle Isle event for 2022, and I wanted to share a little bit about loading these private caches into smartphones and GPSRs, because for about 15 plus years I think I've been helping out with this and a few other events, and there's a lot of caveats that people don't think about necessarily, both as the finders and as the hiders. So I'll start with the finders really quickly. And this also applies to the hiders, if the caches aren't actually published, you will not be able to use the official geocaching apps on either Android or iOS. Those apps require the cache to be published. So if it's a cache that has not yet been published, you will not be able to find it on those apps. And I should also have prefaced this. There's going to be a lot of negatives in this video, because most of what we have is the don't do this. There's plenty of ways to do things right. There's a bunch of ways to do things not so right, so I'm going to call those not so right things out. But if you're on iOS, the easy way to do these unlisted caches is Cachely, which is always our favorite caching app anyway. On Android, I don't generally like to recommend CGeo because it has issues occasionally, because it's open source, doesn't use the official API, but for this, it is a free app and it does do the unlisted caches very, very well. You can also do CGeo, or sorry, I already mentioned the CGeo, but GeoGo and GC Droid both work very well for it as well on Android. Now for the hiders, when you're prepping these caches, a lot of folks use GSAC, which is a great tool. However, it does tend to leave some cruft in the file, which will cause some problems. The best way to avoid that is never use any of the Microsoft Office apps. If you use any of those, they will put control characters in. That also applies to putting the listings on the web page. There's a lot of junk that will end up there, even just doing a copy and paste. So it's best to just use a standard text editor, or some of the other rich editors do a much better job. But when it goes into GSAC, make sure to export that as a GPX file. The way that I generally like to do that, when I've done it, is export it to Garmin GPS, pull the file from the Garmin. That's the file that you're going to email around to folks to play with. But I usually take it and run it through the caching app, make sure that all the caches are there, because typically when you run into those problems, it truncates and you'll end up with, for this event there's 45 caches, you might end up with 20 caches because one of those control characters stops loading of the file. So bring it into your geocaching app on your smartphone, export it again. Cachely has been doing a great job of this recently, so that's what I've been using. Then you can email it to everyone else. Now, to get it out to people, I used to do Dropbox and share those links. It doesn't always work for everyone. Now I'm using Google Drive. Same problem, it doesn't always work for everyone. But you'll also have to share both the zip file and the GPX file. And in this case, we've got QR codes for both that we're going to post. We're also going to email the people who can't use those QR codes, because what will happen is certain phones, particularly Android and certain carriers, certain versions of the phone, if you have security software on the phone, they will block some of that stuff so that you can't do it. On iOS, it's pretty easy. You scan the zip file code, load it into Cachely, and you're good to go. No problems at all there. So it's only really the Android phones that you're going to have to worry about. But we have the zip file available for anyone who has those problems, because generally when you're dealing with the emails, it doesn't have quite the same set of problems. And then again, certain phones will handle it a little differently. So for Android, it's almost trial and error. I hate to say that, but generally the zip file is the one that works for everyone. If that phone has problems with the zip file, then they'll have to use the GPX file. So that's a quick summary of all of the issues that we've run into in loading smartphones specifically. GPSs get a little bit easier because it's just that GSAC loaded in and you're ready to go. But hopefully that gives you a lot of help for your next geocaching event.